Welcome back to Midnight Who Extra, and today, for the last video of 2017, we're going to be taking a look at this year's Christmas special, Twice Upon a Time, which is, of course, the last episode featuring Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. A little bit different than our normal reviews we have done for the Series 9 and Series 10 reviews. This one's going to include a little bit more spoilers, and just letting you guys know that right now. So let's kick it off with, I guess, my favorite parts of this episode. So, of course, one of my favorite parts of this episode was, of course, the two Doctors, the First Doctor and the 12th Doctor's interactions. It was one of the most, probably my favorite parts of this episode because they're completely dynamically different. One act's completely different, the other act's just this way, and I found, I liked how the 12th Doctor is trying to get the First Doctor not to see too much in his personality, and he's kind of trying to hide that, but he's also trying to stop the First Doctor from acting like himself. It was just amazing, and I definitely laughed a few times with him. Another interesting part that I found was kind of funny was, of course, the sonic sunglasses make another appearance, but I like the First Doctor's reaction to them, like, "You're wearing sunglasses inside? Really?" I thought that was hilarious. It was a very hilarious moment to the episode. And, of course, later on, the 12th Doctor put the sunglasses on the First Doctor, but he had to take them off because, you know, browser history, whatever that may be. Now, let's see. The regeneration. I couldn't go without this review without mentioning the regeneration a lot of times. The regeneration was amazing. It definitely had emotion. It had hopefulness. It didn't lose anything. It was a good, somber moment. And I'll talk about the regeneration a little bit down the road. They blended the classic footage of the 10th planet with this new footage they recorded for this episode, and it was very seamless. It really felt natural. Impressed by it. And it was one of those things I didn't really expect it to look that good, but it really did. And I was happy they included it, because they could just start the episode with the First Doctor wandering in the Arctic and didn't even include all that, so I'm really glad they did include that. So, my overall thoughts on this episode was that it was a very good Christmas special. It was definitely not the best, but it was also not the worst. It was right in the middle. It had some great moments to it. It had humor. It had, very somber moments, of course, with the Doctor regenerating. And it also just gave more hope, in a way. It also, having the First Doctor and the 12th Doctor meet, I think was a brilliant idea by Stephen Moffat. It presented itself as two dynamic Doctors. They're both different, but they're also facing regeneration, but they don't know what to do. Now, and that was a very good moment of it, because you have the First Doctor saying, "I can fight through this, I can do this, I don't have to change," and the 12th Doctor, who's also doing the same thing. So they both got to be those Doctors who are now having to accept their fates. And I really think that was a good message of the episode, and I really liked it. One of the best things of this episode was the cast. This cast was superb. The cast was really phenomenal. They all gave excellent performances. So let's talk about David Bradley first. So David Bradley, of course, plays the First Doctor, and the story basically reprising his role as William Hartnell in An Adventure in Space and Time, where he also acted like the First Doctor. So it's kind of interesting. Now, of course, this is not the first time that William Hartnell's First Doctor has been recasted. It was recast in the 20th anniversary special back in the 80s. So this is now the second time that the First Doctor has appeared, played by a different actor. Kind of interesting. But enough with that rambling there. I think David Bradley did a really good job playing the First Doctor. He definitely had the mannerisms down, how he's holding that a lot, and he has how he's acting a lot. And he kind of talked like the First Doctor talked a lot. He got that down. And, it's definitely weird at first, of course, seeing someone else play the First Doctor, because no one, in my opinion, can, it's the original. It's William Hartnell. He created the role. He played the role. So it is hard sometimes to have someone else take over that role. And I think David Bradley did an excellent job. He served the character well. He served the role of the First Doctor very well. So, Peter Capaldi. Every single review, I can't tell you how many times I've said that Peter Capaldi gave excellent performances, and this episode is no exception. His performance in it was, humorous at times, but also sad at times, but also he had great moments, he gave some great speeches, and his interactions with Pearl Mackie, David Bradley, even Mark Gatiss' character, the Captain, were all amazing, and the final speech he gave was really good. It definitely paved way for him just accepting things and telling the future incarnation, here's what to do. I'm letting you in charge. Good luck, kind of thing. And speaking of Mark Gatiss, he played, of course, the Captain, who is actually a Lethbridge Stewart. So he's actually Lethbridge Stewart. So they brought another Lethbridge Stewart into the Doctor Who universe. Moffat does like to do that a lot, doesn't he? Now, his performance as the Captain, I think, was really good. He gave a performance of one where he had to learn this Captain was definitely thrown into a world he did not know. He was taken out of time, planted in the South Pole. That must have been quite unique, very scary in a way, because he's going from a battlefield where he's about to die to the Arctic cold. That probably was very interesting. But it was very interesting to see how he was accepting that he had to die. He had to go toward that. And I guess that was also the helps the Doctor sees that sometimes you have to accept death, and you have to face it up. Now, I did think it was a cool idea to include Lethbridge Stewart, but I'm not entirely still convinced that was, a good idea. But I think, it's one of those things. It's like, is it good? Is it bad? It was definitely a good thing for the fans, but maybe for some people who didn't know who Lethbridge Stewart is, that wouldn't have that reaction. But because of Kate Lethbridge Stewart. So overall, the Captain was a very interesting choice for this episode. I think, I was wondering what's going on with this. Why was this? But they explained it quite well. And I think it was a good choice for Mark Gatiss to play the Captain. Pearl Mackie is back in this episode. And when I first saw the trailer and, first heard that she's returning, I was like, why, in a way? Why is she returning? I didn't really think, her story wrapped up. It was a good ending for her. And now she's back? I didn't really think it was a good idea. But after this episode, I think it was a really good choice. It gave her and Peter Capaldi one last adventure together, and of course it gave the 12th Doctor and Bill the chance to finally say goodbye properly, and, did an amazing job at recreating the scenes from the 10th Planet. I recently did a review of this, by the way, and the link to that review will be in the comments below. And it definitely made that episode alive, but it also blended the two footage very well. I liked how you started out with the original footage, and then all of a sudden it became, the full HD with David Bradley as the Doctor. And I think they did a good job. It was something that I think was much needed, and they did it well enough where it didn't feel like it was forced into the episode. Like, they could have just said, previously, this episode happened, and then started the episode, like I said. So I'm glad they didn't do that. Another really good thing about this episode, I thought, was that they included the Christmas armistice. And that was a very important scene, I think, because it basically brought the concept of Doctor Who back. Because, as you know, a lot of the first Doctor episodes was teaching history. And this was a historical moment, and the Doctor Who was able to show it in all its, in depth and see it. And that was a great addition, because that was an important part of the early years of Doctor Who, and I'm really glad they brought it back for this episode. Generation. I think their generation was really good. I think the effects were, how he regenerated. It definitely seemed a little bit different, but I'll take it over the kind of sneeze with Peter Capaldi, with Matt Smith to him. It was kind of like back and then up all of a sudden. So it's not that. Now, of course, his final speech was more directed to the future incarnation, telling them what to do, and, the guidelines kind of to be the Doctor, and, the world still needs saving. And I kind of found that a very unique moment. It definitely gave Peter Capaldi some last great moments, some great speech at the end, and it was just, he went out being the Doctor. And I think that was an amazing, amazing thing. Jodie Whittaker's introductions into the Doctor Who universe, I think, was very interesting. Of course, I liked how they did the first-person perspective as she's kind of looking at the screen, and you kind of see her kind of scene around her. And I liked that, because it made it seem like that's what the Doctor's seeing for the very first time, and then it's like, what's going on? What is this? New body? Oh, what's going on? I think that was great. And so, but then you, of course, got the ending, which is kind of very, very similar, I think, to another Doctor Who regeneration, but it's a little bit different, just a little bit different to, I think, the 11th hour / end of time part 2. It's a little different, but this time the TARDIS is now complete. It's blowing up. The Doctor gets thrown completely out of the TARDIS this time, so she's not hanging on to it. And then the TARDIS up there dematerializes away from her. To be continued next year. So yeah, that was the regeneration. It was definitely something, it was very fast-paced. I liked it. It gave a more simple introduction to the Doctor, so we get to still not know too much about the Doctor, and we get to be excited to see what this incarnation of the Doctor will be like in Series 11 next year. This episode did have some amazing moments, from the regeneration to the performances, but there was a few things that I did not like about this story. One of the I didn't like was actually part of the blending of the footage, which I did really like. But I really did not like how at the end they kind of blended it, but it made it seem that the first Doctor regenerated alone, when really he kind of didn't, because there was Ben and Polly there too, and I didn't like that they did not include that. I felt that was just like, it's now showing that the first Doctor regenerated alone when he really didn't. I think they should at least did the whole scene, but maybe they just decided not to, and I don't like that decision if they did do that. It just felt just like, why are you taking away this fact that the Doctor did not regenerate alone? I just did not like that for some reason. It just felt weird. Now, of course, I felt the performance of the first Doctor was a little just off to me. It was the first Doctor, but it didn't feel like the first Doctor. But of course, this happened in the Five Doctors for me too. We also recasted the first Doctor. So maybe it's like, I think it's hard for me to see anyone besides William Hartnell playing the first Doctor, so I see the differences maybe a little bit more. But, you know, his performance was still excellent, so it's a minor complaint, I'm going to tell you. So another pro and kind of a con of this episode, I feel, was Rusty the Dalek. Now, it was kind of interesting to see Rusty back. It was very cool to see the Daleks, you know, out of their shell, running around scared because there's a renegade Dalek. But I also felt like it wasn't really necessary to the story very much. You know, like it didn't add that much. It was just the way for the Doctor to learn about the testimony. So it could have been without, but it was still interesting to see Rusty again. Speaking of the testimony, they were not really a villain to the story. They were more of like an organization that extracted people before they died and copied their memories. So they weren't really that bad. So it was interesting that there really wasn't no villain to the story, but it made it seem like they were the villains, how they were pursuing the Doctor. Bill was, of course, a glass creature. She wasn't really Bill, which the Doctor suspected, and he still had hard times even thinking of her as Bill, because, of course, he saw Bill as a Cyberman last time. Now, of course, you know, I liked how they made it seem like they were the villain, but in the end, you learn that they're just more people who are trying to keep memories of people alive. So it's a really cool kind of concept, because that's what we do with the Doctors. Whenever they regenerate, we keep their memories alive. We remember all the good moments, and sometimes the more not so good moments. We just remember everything about, you know, the 12th Doctor, and all the way back to the William Hartnell. So we got 12 Doctors full of memories, and we are the ones who we remember them. Good Christmas special. I kind of liked it. I definitely would give this one probably a 7.5 out of 10. There's some really good moments, there's some really just okay moments, and some moments I didn't really like. So it was pretty much a normal Doctor Who story for me. Yeah, bringing back the first Doctor, because the first Doctor was the first Doctor of that regeneration cycle, and the 12th Doctor is the first one of this new regeneration cycle. Got to see how drastically different they were, which was kind of very cool to see. Of course, that always happens with multi-Doctor stories. That's why they're kind of my favorite Doctor Who stories sometimes. So that is it for tonight. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this video, you can click the button that looks like this. There's also a subscribe button if you want to see any more of our videos. And in the comments below, tell me your guys' thoughts on this episode. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on January 8th for all new videos here on Midnight Who Extra. And bye, everyone.